This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.
So let's end this. All the evidence was here all along, because right is wrong.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. Good evening and Happy New Year. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, and the subject matter of tonight's show is expert witnesses. I'm going to explain how and why expert witnesses are used in employment cases. And then we will move on to a conversation with a real expert witness when we start the second segment of this show in 12 minutes. Ultimately, the employee bringing the employment lawsuit has to prove the lawsuit. Liability, which means to hold the employer responsible, has to actually be proven. If the employer is liable, otherwise known as responsible, there are issues of damages. Generally, expert witnesses in employment lawsuits are used for damage purposes. Common expert witnesses in employment lawsuits are persons familiar with making large-scale calculations, such as CPAs or economists, vocational experts who opine on how long it will take for a wrongfully terminated employee to find a job, and mental health care professionals who testify whether the wrongful termination, sexual harassment, or discrimination at work is causing emotional injury, and if so, to what extent. An expert witness must be shown to possess scientific, technical, or other generalized knowledge, skill, training, or education on the subject matter of their testimony. The expert's techniques and evaluations must help the trier of fact, that's the jury or the judge or the arbitrator, to understand the evidence or to determine a fact in issue. The proposed expert testimony must have a scientific connection to the pertinent inquiry. So this means that the expert witness is there to fill in gaps and explain things which are outside the realm of an ordinary person's knowledge. They're supposed to use techniques, education, and training that the average member of the public lacks. Expert witness testimony or reports about things outside the ordinary knowledge of someone who doesn't possess the expert's qualifications. That's what this is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be beyond common experience. So experts aren't there to testify to things that everyone knows or to sway the fact finder with their opinion on something that everyone knows. So we're talking about expert witnesses in employment cases, and I am an employment lawyer. So this is kind of focused on employment. We'll talk a little bit about how expert witnesses work in other cases. An expert's opinion has to be based upon facts or data that they perceived or was made known to the expert at or before the trial or the hearing. If the data relied upon by the expert informing their opinion is the type that reasonably is relied upon in the expert's field, that's good. So you're probably thinking this is pretty impressive. People who have specialized knowledge can just come into court and solve the problem. Explain how things are supposed to be. Well, that's not exactly how it works, because experts are not allowed to testify to what the law is in the United States or California. They're not allowed to testify on ultimate issues of fact, which sort of means they can't say, you must decide the case a certain way. They're supposed to testify to, again, opinions and issues normal people would not know. So if you've got the first 3.5, 4 minutes of what I'm saying, you guys probably know more than a lot of lawyers, because a lot of lawyers don't understand the function of an expert. So here's the dilemma. The first thing is experts are being paid by one side, the side that is calling them, offering their expert opinion. And some experts, unfortunately, only testify for one side. I had a case not too long ago in which the employer put on a therapist who was supposed to discredit the fact my client suffered emotionally due to physical and verbal sexual harassment. So I looked up the expert's past testimonies. None of them were for an employee. She even wrote a book aimed at discrediting plaintiffs, the people who bring the lawsuit, and their claims for emotional distress. Looking at her resume, it seems she never treated patients for emotional distress when they were sexually harassed. Doesn't sound like a very good expert, does it, on that issue? And she hadn't treated anyone in 20 years. She wasn't really up on the present forms of treatment, and so her role was simply to read therapy reports and come up with different conclusions than the actual treating therapist. Is that possible? So you know what happened? I don't think that expert ever testified again. I made such a mockery out of it. I'm Karl Gerber. I'm a real workplace lawyer. I can be reached for real workplace cases at 877-525-0700. You used to always see that expert listed until I destroyed her that time, 2012. 877-525-0700 if you want a lawyer that can cross-examine the hell out of a witness. 877-525-0700 from me, the real employment lawyer, Karl Gerber. Here's another story about experts. And remember, second segment, we got a real expert here. About 10 years ago, I found myself doing a case in the old Redondo Beach courthouse, which is no longer there. It was a converted office building, and I was able to hear everything the jury was saying when they were deliberating, and I was just sitting in the courthouse seats. My client had a medical condition that was in dispute. Unfortunately, her doctor died before trial, and I had to get a doctor to explain what was wrong with her and the nature of her diagnosis and how the diagnosis can be determined. You know, that was only something that an orthopedic surgeon could explain. It was outside the expertise and knowledge of ordinary people. So I'm sitting there in the audience, and I hear behind the door, the jury foreperson, that's the leader of the jury, say, "The problem with this is none of them," referring to the two sides in the lawsuit, "brought her doctors, my clients." The jury was very reluctant to accept the medical opinion of two doctors who had not been treating my client. What did the jury do? They came up with their own idea about what was wrong with the employee, and they didn't listen to either of the experts. Many trial lawyers will tell you juries usually don't listen to experts, and I'm sort of that camp. Maybe it's the fact that it's bought testimony. Maybe it's the fact juries just don't trust those expert methods. Maybe the jury wants to hear from the real people involved opposed to some expert who comes on the scene afterwards. Maybe the jury doesn't think their testimony carries enough weight, to sway their opinions. Maybe they want to come up with their own conclusions, those juries. So I actually do believe that judges and arbitrators are a little bit more likely to accept expert testimony because why? Well, it could be they're lazy. It could be that they're only one person opposed to 12 or 6 making a decision like a jury would, and they're less sure of themselves. Or maybe they have more respect for the formal rules of the legal system, which include rules about, experts and listening to them and all that. So what I'm telling you about expert opinion is not always valid if you're not in employment law. Expert opinion is required in professional negligence cases like medical malpractice. Now, in class actions, which is really what I do, a lot of wage and hour class actions, experts are really needed for statistical sampling. Instead of every pay stub for every class member being introduced, an expert might pick up a random sample of, say, 100 pay stubs. And they're also needed for daily, monthly, weekly calculations about every hour not paid at the right rate of pay and the total due for interest. Because remember, those are people that are used to making large-scale calculations. And we have large-scale calculations in a wage and hour case. So I've used vocational experts and economists to testify to the fact that maybe the labor market statistics concerning the jobs my client might or might not be able to find. And that has to happen sometimes when you're trying to explain why someone just can't find a job. So, sometimes like I had a case with call centers. Call centers aren't around anymore. And so what is this lady going to do who worked at a call center for a very long time? And that's where you use an expert for wage loss, which usually does come up in a wrongful termination case. So how much do experts cost? I bet you want to know. These days in LA, I don't think you'd find a doctor who's going to testify for less than $1,000 an hour. Economists and CPAs, you're not going to get one for less than $600 an hour as an expert witness. So it's really important that the lawyer hiring the expert isn't going to just waste their money on an expert who won't even be allowed to testify because they might be testifying on matters outside the expert's expertise or issues of ultimate fact, which experts can't really do, or maybe issues that aren't really proven through means that an expert uses in their science. So I've been successful in getting a lot of experts on the other side so limited in what they can testify to, they barely say anything. I've also used the other side's experts to fill in gaps when I don't have an expert. So there are things you can do. Attorneys have to be careful about monitoring those expert expenses in employment cases because you get these experts sometimes that want to read every deposition when the facts don't really concern them. And they're just looking for, earning a large amount of money to buy a vacation house, maybe without a loan. You should see some of these bills. In wage and hour cases, class actions, $1 million, some of these experts, $500,000. And some of the doctors aren't a lot cheaper. So, you also have to monitor those experts to make sure that the people who work for them don't have minimal billing quotas and they're just billing their time up the gazoo. And if the expert is relying on a lot of people that work for them and they're not really doing the legwork, that can be dangerous too, because all of their opinions might be based upon those underlings, and maybe the underlings didn't do it right, or do you really want to just be relying on new members? So this is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KBC. Talk Radio 790 KBC. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. The lights are out and things are going to get a little bit different now because I've got an expert witness in studio, and all that rambling I did for 12 minutes is going to pay off. You'll know what we're talking about. Good evening, Mr. O'Payne. I'm pleased to meet you.
Really?
No.
Well, that's what I thought.
Could you briefly describe what you're an expert on?
Not really. That would take a couple of hours.
I'm sure you could. Well, I'm sure you talk about your qualifications in court when the side putting you on is trying to make you sound impressive.
Yeah, but that costs.
I know most people know this show is, a little bit about employment, a lot about comedy. Well, perhaps the best comedy in the mainstream media right now, but I'm trying to give this show a more serious bend.
A band, huh? As in Gumby or gender?
Neither.
You're a lawyer, right?
Unfortunately, I'm licensed in 4 states.
Then what do you want me to say?
Well, I'd like you to talk about your impressive qualifications in the field that makes you an expert.
Well, that would take too long.
Oh, Mr. O'Payne, I'm under the impression that you're the, head of an entire organization staffed with numerous expert witnesses, from neurologists to phrenologists to just plain ologists and urinologists.
We're not just about medical experts. We do statistics, human factors, non-human factors, meteorology, numerology, food science, manufacturing standards, product defects, real property defects, bank fraud.
No, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think we get the point. There's literally an expert for every profession and topic of expert opinion in your organization.
Actually, there aren't that many of us. We're a small expert witness service that caters to the entire United States and all of continental Europe, but not Great Britain or Eastern Europe or the Mediterranean countries. Nothing in Eastern Europe either.
I think I get it. Your outfit isn't a big splash in most of the European continent.
No, it isn't. But I should tell you, it wasn't so easy getting over here to this show. The Thomas Cook Travel Agency stranded me in Belgium.
Were you doing expert witness services in Belgium?
Nope, I was there for the chocolate.
Oh, could you tell us how you got into the expert witness business?
No.
This is odd. I was informed you yourself, you're an economist. I'd like you to review this packet of information I have here and render an expert opinion in the next 5 minutes. Show us you're an expert.
Who's paying for this?
Well, I guess I could arrange payment.
Very well. I need $15,000 retainer to get started.
You're only allowed to spend 5 minutes forming an opinion. You are an expert.
What about the time it takes me to write the report?
Oh, no report here. You're going to render an opinion right here, right now, about this woman's lost wages after she got fired because she was on a disability leave because of her thyroid.
It's going to take a long time for me to say my opinion. Who's going to pay for that?
Well, if you spend less than 5 minutes forming your opinion, how long is it going to take for you to explain it?
Who's going to be questioning me?
Oh, I'm going to do it myself.
You're the guy who only lost one jury trial and one binding arbitration in his career, right?
Well, that's me.
Your questioning's going to last a long time.
Well, the show is over with by the end of the hour, and there's nothing the listeners can do about that long, agonizing wait.
How much of a retainer can you do?
Well, 500? Well, do you make more than 500 in 5 minutes?
Depending on what I am testifying to, I can do $2,500 an hour.
Oh, that price is so high, I think you'll get ruined in cross-examination.
I'll do this expert opinion thing for $1,500. You've got me for 20 minutes.
How about 1,000?
$1,299.98. Out the door.
Do we have a deal at maybe $1,250?
Well, that depends. You've got cash?
Well, here you go. This is the money I've been saving for my oldest son's bachelor party.
How long you been saving?
Oh, since he turned 5.
How many guys he's going to invite here?
Well, how should I know? That could be 10 or 15 years from now.
Can I read the material?
Well, you've got 5 minutes.
What's going to happen on the show the next 5 minutes if I'm reading?
Well, I'll read too. I want to catch up on my reading. I've had a hankering to read The Count of Monte Cristo.
The abridged version, 640 pages.
I ain't reading no abridged version.
You're going to read the whole book while I'm reading the report?
Yep.
I've got an expert conclusion.
That was pretty fast. Let's hear it.
I'm going to need another retainer. $1,250 is all used up.
It's been less than a minute.
Let me see here. Has it?
Yeah, I only got for a couple pages in my book.
I've read what you wanted me to read about the lady who got fired from the hamburger stand. I've got a conclusion if you want it.
Slow down. I mean, you gotta do the conclusion here. I've read from, hey, I want to know your opinion of her future lost wages over the lifespan of her work career.
Mr. Gerber. It is Mr. Gerber, isn't it?
Yes.
What do you want me to say?
About what?
About the lady's future lost wages who worked at the hamburger stand for 35 years since she was 16, and now she can't stand anymore on account of her back. And with her thyroid problem, she's going to have to miss 1 month to 3 months of work every single year.
Well, that's what I'd like, an expert opinion on that facts scenario.
Well, what do you want me to say?
For he's a jolly good fellow?
That's what you want me to say?
Well, at this point.
Fine, it's your money. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. Should I go on?
Of course!
And nobody can deny. Now that I've said that, can I have the rest of my retainer?
Well, I guess. When you tell us what your expert opinion is on my little factual scenario.
I keep on asking you, Mr. Gerber, what do you want me to say?
Well, the truth. Nothing but the truth. The truth will set you free. From what?
You're making this too hard on you. Just tell me what you want me to say and I'll say it.
Wait a minute. What kind of expert are you?
Is there another kind?
In all candor, well, probably not. Well, maybe one. Somewhere, maybe not in Los Angeles, but somewhere else. Just one expert.
I am just gonna say she ain't never gonna get a job as good as the one in the burger stand, where she got sunstroke every other year, probably got skin cancer out there, and she's been breathing all the smoke and the grease since '84.
Mr. Opine, I was under the impression that you were gonna bring in an expert to this show for the product engineering issues I have on the other case.
I was? That's no problem. What do you want to know?
Well, we've got this super weird case involving this heavy equipment operator. He drove a skid steer on tracks. He was grading in the hills, and he uncovered a very strange form of waterproofing on a building.
No problem. What's the expert question?
We need to prove that the method of waterproofing was ineffective, or he reasonably suspected it was. Also, he reasonably suspected that the method of waterproofing could cause him and other workers severe health problems.
What kind of expert you need to do all of that?
Well, obviously a medical doctor, one that specializes in lung disease, maybe industrial injury, but also an expert in waterproofing.
Well, none of that is a problem.
It's a terrible problem if my client was fired for complaining about all this.
I mean, it ain't no problem me giving you the expert help on all them issues.
Well, that's great. Would this be on, 3 or more retainers, separate ones?
We can do it all on one retainer.
Well, and we're going to find out how that works in a couple minutes when we come back, because I've got that case with the waterproofing in the hills, and I need an expert. My client, Rodriguez, has got that wrongful termination case. If you got a real wrongful termination case, you're sitting around stressed out by the fact your employer fired you, and all you were doing was trying to do the right thing and complain to the government about something illegal or complain to management, I'd like to hear from you during normal business hours at 877-525-0700. That's Karl Gerber of the Employment Lawyers Group, 877-525-0700. If you think you got fired on account of age, sex, race, disability, that's the kind of thing I do. 877-525-0700 for a wage and hour lawyer who might do a class action and use a good expert witness to figure out what the damages are for the class and if statistically the little problem is going to happen more likely than not and all those kind of things. So this is Karl Gerber, Workplace Lawyer. We're on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. I hope you're live streaming on YouTube on the Karl Gerber with a K channel. And we'll be back just a minute to talk a little bit more to this expert witness.
Made a priority to deceive the majority of disinterested peers dodging duty.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a results-oriented law firm whose goal is to get the client what they deserve. They've represented thousands of California employees who've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, subjected to employment discrimination, or were owed wages on an individualized or group basis, such as a class action. They have a high rate of success. There are few situations involving employment law that they have not confronted. At the forefront of employee rights, they're often the first employee law firm to confront a new legal issue. For an experienced employment lawyer, call 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, read more about the firm at employeelawca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. Make your work problem theirs to solve.
All the evidence was
Talk
here all
Radio
along.
790 KBC. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, and I'm Karl Gerber. And there's nothing that can be done to make my pronunciation any better. I'm going to be babbling the rest of my life. I've got an expert witness here, and I guess the benefit of going with one expert witness service like his, well, the benefit, but wait, the jury might wonder why all the experts are coming from the same expert witness service.
Are you going to worry about what the jury might think?
Isn't that the most important thing? What the jury thinks?
I am at that point in my career where I'm less concerned with what the jury thinks and more concerned with what I think. You understand?
Oh, this sounds like a football player. What's his name? My middle name is Anthony. This guy's first name it's kind of like my middle name. I think it's Antonio. Yeah. Sometimes I go by Carlos Antonio Herber. I think this guy's name, it might be Brown somewhere in his name, too.
I didn't catch none of that.
Mr. Opine, if you're concerned with just speaking the truth, I can go with that, even if it doesn't help. I'd rather know now than find out at trial.
That's not what I mean.
Uh-huh.
You're paying me, right?
Well, we've already been through that. I'll give you my bachelor parting savings for my second son's party, too.
Was this savings just for you or the whole party?
Well, I heard those kind of parties are expensive. I've saved some low four-figure money. I mean, will that cover getting the services you need?
You pay, I'll talk.
Oh, seriously, you'll get paid.
That's not what I mean.
Can you stop beating around the bush and tell us what you mean?
Not really, but I'll do it on account of the whole time thing and you being such a cheapskate and trying to buy my opinion for $12.50.
Meaning what?
You pay and I say whatever you want me to say.
Well, I hope that's a joke.
Well, it isn't. Isn't that what you want? I mean, some good old-fashioned bot testimony?
That's not the kind of expert I want. I want one who believes what he or she says, and what is said is backed up by sound scientific methods, trainings, and experience.
Oh, well, I ain't that kind of expert.
Oh, not good.
You said something about needing an expert on a case about some type of waterproofing?
Well, my firm has considered getting an expert for that case, but the issue is not whether my client believes the waterproofing is adequate. It's inadequate and unhealthy. The issue is not whether that's actually true, just whether he had a reasonable suspicion it's true. That's the standard for wrongful termination. And I must say, given the product, now I haven't tested it and I don't want to. It's sort of gross, but I do suspect it's a health risk and a very poor effort at recycling.
No problem. I can give an expert opinion on all of that.
Well, insofar as the public health risk, maybe a doctor on infectious diseases would be good.
I can do that.
You're a doctor?
Yeah, sure, I'm a doctor.
Well, you should have said so when I asked you about those vocational options for my clients and then the computation of her lost wages at present cash value spread over the next 16 years as she was able to work until 67 and a half.
I ain't got no problem rendering those vocational options.
Did you work in that field before you became a medical doctor?
Nope.
Well, and what qualifications do you have to render vocational opinions?
Summer of 69.
Isn't that a song?
It might be. What do I know?
How does Summer of 69 relate to your qualifications as a vocational expert?
I worked in a vocational office the summer of 69.
You don't seem old enough to have been a vocational expert back in 69.
I wasn't an expert then. I just worked there.
How does that qualify you to be an expert?
I've been making money rendering options off that summer gig for 50 years now.
What? That doesn't qualify you as an expert.
I've been qualified a couple of times. Court in Thailand, for instance.
Do you speak Thai?
No.
Your testimony was translated, I presume.
Yep. That's the beauty. I don't know what the hell the translator said. He could have said anything. I just bobbed my head up and down.
That's absurd.
I tend to agree.
But you do have qualifications in medicine, right?
Oh, yeah. I graduated 8th in my class from the ill-conceived medical school of the Caribbean.
Is that really its name?
It's a nickname.
I'm getting lost here. I'm not familiar with all of the out-of-country medical schools. I've known a few people who went to the University of Guadalajara, but, that's about it.
Don't you have pals from Oxford?
Heavens no! Nizuki is just a guest on the show. I don't keep company with neuro nurses, even if they have Oxford diplomas in ancient erotica with an emphasis on Asian erotica.
That's too bad. I was hoping to meet her. She's world famous just like me.
How many people graduated in your class at the Caribbean Medical School?
10.
I guess there are a lot of small medical schools.
It's a terribly difficult institution. 600 start and only 10 finish.
Well, this is sort of odd, but could that attrition rate be maybe a voodoo curse?
I never really thought of that, and I am an expert witness.
Well, I just thought of that. I mean, I didn't base it on anything reliable.
No, that's okay. You'll be fine.
Well, what was it like living in the Caribbean?
I never lived there.
Well, didn't you have to attend live lectures and do medical student things at the medical school?
Probably.
Hey, Mr. Hopine, I don't think you'll qualify as an expert at infectious diseases or industrial medicine or respiratory problems or whatever the waterproofing substance at issue might cause.
We can do the inadequate waterproofing angle.
Well, maybe you've got someone for that who has the right skills and training.
You're looking at them.
I'd rather have somebody completely focused on relevant, on the relevant profession. You're sort of all over the place, giving expert opinion in economics, vocational work, medicine. I'm sure you've got someone else at your expert witness service that covers most disciplines.
Nope, it's just me and my assistant.
What?
There are over 1,000 disciplines I've been covering since 1979.
Did you actually hold employment in any of these fields?
Absolutely. Waterproofing, chemical properties, resistance.
Well, you could be an expert for the whole waterproofing issue, but you've impeached yourself testifying you're an expert in all of these other fields, maybe embellishing what you did in the summer of '69.
Oh, Mr. Gerber, there's no need to embellish when you're 15 and bagging Mrs. Robinson. Besides, once you start using the I word, what you trying to do? It's too far away from Halloween for a witch hunt.
Mrs. Robinson was still at it 2 years after that movie came out?
Believe it or not, she's still alive and she smokes packs every day.
You had an affair with Mrs. Robinson?
Absolutely. Met her at the A&P bagging groceries. I was working, 2 jobs that summer and just to study chemical engineering over at DePaul University.
You went to DePaul?
Yes, sir. Used all earnings working in the counseling office at my high school. Took college chemistry that summer.
Well, did you get a degree at DePaul?
I got a master's.
Did you work in the residential waterproofing industry?
Yes, sir. And I still do. I get a lot of contracts with no pont.
Oh, I don't know what no pun is. I think we're going to find out when we come back. This expert, I ain't using him on a case. I got a real law practice where I practice employment law representing employees, and I'm hoping people call me who listen to this show. That's why I'm doing this. I'm Karl Gerber. I can be reached at 877-525-0700 in normal business hours. I have offices all across California. 877-525-0700 for the original employment lawyer. 877-525-0700 if you want a lawyer who's going to do the cross-exam right. All right, this is Talk Radio 790 KBC. I want to hear more from this crazy expert when we return.
Let's end this.
Talk Radio 790 KBC. This is Karl Gerber on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm a real workplace lawyer. We've got an expert in here who's an expert on everything, probably an expert on nothing. He just told us he worked at No Pont. I don't know, with some big chemical manufacturing company.
It's the fourth largest in the world, right under the two DuPont companies.
Well, then maybe you can be my consulting expert. I couldn't have you testifying in court account of you claiming to be an expert in every field.
My rates for consulting work is $1,500 an hour for the type of service you're requesting.
Okay, I'll hit up my business line of credit. Maybe I'll get a client off this show if they call 877-525-0700. If they have a real wrongful termination lawsuit. I've got offices all over California, and I swear I'll never use Mr. Opine. 877-525-0700.
On account of you bad-mouthing me on the radio, it's going to cost you $4,000 for my consulting fee.
Well, how about this? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty dirt band, and you can tell me if you even have an opinion on this completely bizarre form of waterproofing I'm going to ask you about.
I don't work that way.
Then I'll have to say you aren't the type of legitimate expert who talks to counsel for free to see if they even qualify as an expert and capable of rendering an opinion on the subject matter at hand.
I already told you I'll render an expert opinion on anything and charge for it. Just tell me what you want me to say.
Quite frankly, I'm not sure what will be said about this product. I have many theories, but it's so strange a product, I don't know what to expect.
Well, then just try me.
Here's a picture of a product in use. As I understand things, this rubber, maybe latex or lambskin, it's the product's all made up of recycled materials.
Are you going to take your hand off that picture? I can't see anything.
I'm embarrassed to show the picture. This is really, really weird.
Come on, my hourly meter is ticking.
Well, here it is. You're looking at used, recycled, repurposed, and spent condoms fastened together with rubber cement, but not very well. There breaks everywhere.
I invented this product. I can tell you everything you need to know.
Oh, no! That's impossible. It's too coincidental.
Who sponsors your show?
Well, excuse me. I have to say a sponsorship plug. This program was made possible by a generous grant from the Helms Foundation's $5.14 billion in funding and 14 inches of endowment.
I didn't get here by accident. Teen pregnancy is an accident. Me being here was planned.
Well, not by me. I didn't plan this. I just sit here and every week the strangest, weirdest, most out there metal cases stumble into the studio and waste this station's time.
Waste this station's time? This is the best show on any Los Angeles radio station.
Rhemus Helms does tend to agree.
The nerve of you, Gerber. Rhemus Helms sets up all these shows for you. And all you have to do is write the script, come in here at a totally inconvenient time over the weekend, and act this out with us. He's made his world your world.
It may just be a world I'd rather not be living in.
Do you have a choice?
Well, I never thought about it that way. I mean, Andy Warhol isn't with us anymore, and I never knew him anyway. I mean, yeah, I guess Rhemus Helms probably knows the most interesting people in America.
Thank you.
Well, he's rubbed elbows. Well, maybe a whole lot more with so many people.
And your point?
Given how things have developed insofar as you invented this strange form of waterproofing, I don't think you'd be the one to testify as an unsafe or to conduct tests to determine how inadequate it is as waterproofing.
To the contrary.
It'd be a conflict of interest for you to testify the product is unsafe and unhealthy.
You worry about things like that?
Do I worry about conflicts of interest? It's generally not a good idea if your expert witness is the manufacturer of the product at issue.
Why is that?
Maybe these kind of conflicts of interest aren't so obvious to a non-lawyer.
Yeah, that's the other thing I can provide.
What's that?
I'll be like your second advocate if you hire me.
Oh, I prefer seemingly unbiased opinions.
Not me. I'm a lawyer.
Oh, that's not good. Lawyers make the worst expert witnesses. The opposing side will unquestionably ask if you're there to advocate or testify to a scientific opinion.
I just tell them I'm there to do my job.
Well, then they'll ask what your job is.
I'll tell them I've tested 100,000 times in 14 different NATO countries and 114 non-NATO countries.
I think you testifying about the product is a disaster waiting to happen.
This might help you reconsider. I didn't go to law school. It ain't like that.
Well, then you shouldn't call yourself a lawyer.
You're right. I never passed the bar.
Well, if you didn't go to law school and you didn't pass the bar, why are you calling yourself a lawyer?
Correspondence school.
This isn't gonna work. Pretty much everything you said is what an expert is not supposed to be.
How do you know I'm not the right expert if you don't know what I'm going to say about the very product I manufactured?
Okay, I'll start questioning you.
It's gonna cost you.
And I'm not paying.
I want the world to know Cornelius O'Payne can testify to anything. Call me.
No.
Question me. I'll show the listeners how good I am.
Mr. O'Payne, what is your experience with the waterproofing at issue?
Oh, lots of things. Some of these products were mine. I mean, I used them. One day I got my grandkids to string them all together on Earth Day. Not all of them came from my house.
What products are we talking about?
Condoms.
You mentioned that you used some of these condoms?
Yes, I did. I'm not too old to have a good time.
How many condoms were strung together to create the waterproofing plaintiff Rodriguez complained about?
Thousands. We're talking over 6,000 condoms for 10 feet.
Is there a reason why you chose to use condoms for this waterproofing?
Recycle and reuse. Recycle and reuse. I heard it at school play with, way I was invited to.
Mr. O'Payne, did you research whether this would be an effective means of waterproofing?
No.
Have you conducted any tests on whether stringing a bunch of condoms together is sufficient subterranean waterproofing?
Yes.
Please explain the nature of these tests.
I went to Big Five and got those things you squeeze together to work your grip. And they got a springy dingy in the middle of it. And I did that for about a week. And then my assistant and I went and gave all the condoms a really good stretch on a hot day.
Were these new or used condoms?
They were used. Some of them might have been just tried on, not used.
Did you consider that a used condom might be less effective in waterproofing than a non-used condom?
No.
I am questioning an expert witness. This is Karl Gerber on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer show. Did you conduct any research into whether there could be sanitation issues with using these used, spent condoms?
No.
Did you use recycled condoms?
Now that I think about it, they may not have been the best choice of words.
Did you do anything to recondition the structural integrity of the condoms, like fuse them together into a larger rubber product, if you will?
Yes, in some instances.
What was done to reinforce these used, many spent, some just tried on condoms before they were used to waterproof a mixed-use project in the Hollywood Hills?
My assistant sewed some of them back together.
With Frad?
We used a variety of products from, well, have you ever got one of them little sewing kits from a hotel?
Have you read any scientific literature whereby the concept of using used, spent, but sometimes just tried on condoms was discussed?
Yes.
What scientific literature could that be?
Simi Valley University, Journal of Plastics, Volume 14, Issue 14, published in 2014 by Dr. Litigants of the Helms Foundation.
Is there actually a university in Simi Valley?
Not that I know of.
Does the American Jewish University have a campus in Simi Valley?
Yeah, I think they do, but they have nothing to do with the University of Simi Valley.
Would you agree it is an accurate summation of your testimony that you're not aware of any reason why used, spent, not really recycled condoms strung together through stretching on a hot day would be adequate subterranean waterproofing?
Yes, and will you consider hiring me?
Would you agree? Would you agree, for all you know, the condoms at issue could possibly spread disease?
No. The fact that Rhemus Helms had procreating sex robots that caused an unusual virus that caused breaks in the chain of condoms was a highly unforeseen circumstance at the time I obtained a large quantity of the male and female condoms from the Rhemus Helms cosplay ostrich ranch in Sun Valley, California. Mr. Gerber, did you foresee anything like that would ever happen?
Oh, no!
Will you hire me now?
No! I'm a real workplace lawyer. I'd never use a quack like this guy making condoms to waterproof a building. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. If we're not here on Sunday, we'll be here on Saturday. But listen to Karl Gerber with the K channel on YouTube to find out when this show will be on the radio.
Of disinterested peers dodging duty for years, hating the process.
This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.